live from New York. It's a show that. Okay.
Don't do it.
Why? I mean, that's what the.
I mean, if you're going to do it, go all in. Yeah.
It's National Yodeling Day, okay?
It's National Yodel for your neighbors.
According to Ramsey.
And we were just talking about yodeling and why it has. That's what people want to know Super Bowl week, okay? People are locked in. Ooh, the Kansas City Villains. Travis Kelce has heard all of the noise, and he loves it.
So, think back to the first parade we went to, which was for the audience. We didn't go, obviously, we weren't all together as a show when they won their first Super Bowl in the 2019 season. So this was just 2022 season, February of 23, just over 2 years ago. That was a year when the Chiefs led the league in points. Patrick Mahomes was the league MVP, and they beat Joe. Mahomes got hurt in the playoffs. They beat Joe Burrow, and then they beat these Eagles. And I don't know if you remember this as vividly as I do, but you were stunned, Wilds, particularly, at how many people were like, man, nobody believed in us but you guys. Or nobody,
Just regular fans
at the parade. And the Chiefs, when they got to the podium, it was big. Nobody thought we could do it. And that was mostly make-believe. It was a little real because of the Burrowhead stuff and because Mahomes had gotten hurt. But that team was not discounted, and Mahomes was not discounted at all that year. Then we go last year, and obviously the parade last year ended in tragedy, so we didn't really even talk much about the lead up to it or whatever, but I think it's fair now to look back on it. Last year, it was that times 100. It was legitimate last year as opposed to kind of fabricated in the eyes of the players that this team was counted out. Can't go on the road. Worst team, worst team of the Mahomes era, all of it. So they've always had like a thing, and a thing to lean on as, where it's them against the world. It was going to be hard to create this year because they were the two-time defending champs, because they had the best record all year long, because they are the favorites in the Super Bowl. They were the favorites last week. But they have it.
Yeah.
Because it is a twofold thing. One of the country's rooting against you, and the other piece of it is, and this is where kind of the ref thing bleeds into it because it might be part of the reason the country's rooting against them, but both of their playoff games, the opposing team's head coach and some of its organization or front office has basically been like, calls went against us. And you know what I mean? You were tweeting about today, McDermott and Brandon Beane being like, got the spot or the Xavier Worthy catch. We know what D'Amico Ryans and Will Anderson said. And so for a team to simultaneously be one game away from being the greatest team ever and the greatest 3-year stretch ever, at least that part's not debatable, while also being able to really be like, they don't want us to do it. They can't really say anymore they don't think we can do it. It's they don't want us to do it, and they think we're, cheating is the wrong word, but you know what I mean? I think it is legitimately positive for this team as far as their ability to stay focused and rally around each other, which is clearly important, Brew, when trying to do something no team's been able to do, which is stay this laser focused for this many seasons in a row.
No, I agree with just about everything you said. I'm glad you brought up the 2023 parade, which was from the 2022 season. First of all, Kansas City, see you soon.
Okay.
We'll probably be back in a few weeks. Probably
you
be
haven't
back.
made your official
I haven't made my pick, but we'll probably be. History tells me we will probably be back in a few weeks. But from that parade, it's interesting because I wrote this down. Mahomes did say the AFC West thought we were rebuilding.
Oh, yeah.
And you're right. Like, it was like, I don't remember that
Well, it was because they had traded Tyreek.
Right,
and
Tyreek's gone. Yes. But rebuilding, he said. And then Kelce said the haters were saying the Chiefs were done. All right?
Yeah.
So they clearly, we know Andy Reid looks for,
That's so funny. We both thought of the parade. You and I haven't even talked to each other.
But I remember when they were saying they were underdogs. And just a week ago, Andy Reid was saying we're the underdogs when literally you weren't. All right, you were the favorite.
Right.
So they lean into that whole underdog thing, and I agree it's a positive force for them. But here's the thing: it has to lean into the villainy. It has to be who you are at your core. Like, you have to believe it has to be in your soul. We saw it with LeBron.
It worked against
First year in Miami.
Take,
he was like, and I get why he did it. It was like, oh, everybody's hating on me now. I used to be this prodigy that everybody loved. Now they're hating on me. He tried to lean into that, and it was probably the worst experience of his NBA career. And so you have to be that. And I think Mahomes and Kelce, certainly Kelce, but all of them, Andy Reid, like, for all the commercials, the fun-loving commercials, Andy Reid and his Nuggies, and, Mahomes and Jake from State Farm, and the storybook romance of Kelce and Taylor Swift. They, at their core, are like, it's us against the world. You don't think of yourself as a villain, but you can think of yourself as me and us against the world. And that is a strength for them.
And I think what will add legitimacy to it, or will at least give them enough credibility in their own brains that it's not all make-believe, is I think there is an inevitability that during Super Bowl opening night at the media day is what some Eagle is going to step in it on the ref stuff.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's almost impossible.
They're not the most disciplined team outside of Jalen and Saquon. I could see.
Right, and so it'll be 20 guys, 30 guys talking, only 5 of which regularly talk to the media, a lot of which I know they were there 2 years ago, but a lot of which weren't there because they've kind of redone their whole defense since then. So that will, I think, help the Chiefs motivationally. And I truly believe the NFL honors will be played at a Chiefs team meeting because none of them will be there. And they will see every single major player category. When they list the nominees, you know what they will see? 1 or 2 Philadelphia Eagles. Now, they won't be there either, but you know what I mean? They'll run a tape of Zach Bond. They'll run a tape of Cooper DeJean. They'll run a tape of Quinyon Mitchell, all of it, and be like, yeah, it was Saquon, obviously, and no Chiefs, whatsoever. So I think those, even though they won't be underdogs by Vegas, they will convince themselves that, you know what I mean, that people don't think we can do this.
And you think about it, think of Brady. He always had the 6th-round pick and all that stuff.
But then also, I'm too old.
Right, I'm a system QB, I'm too old, all that. Jordan would manufacture stuff, like LeBradford Smith and all that stuff.
We won the Super Bowl. It came back from being literally suspended and won the Super Bowl.
Brady.
Like, some of it's not.
Brady.
Some of it is not manufactured
that was,
for slights for him. They viewed them as real slights. All right, so here's the flip side. I made a list. Didn't make a graphic. Of power ranking of Super Bowl motivations. Because when we first saw this, I'm like, it's kind of like Kelce podcast. You can take any little snippet and we can talk about it, but is it going to have any real juice? Because I think we all agree having some sort of internal motivation is good. Yeah. However, whatever you want to do. But does he have the best internal motivation? So I looked at the top 3 internal motivations for the Super Bowl.
Oh, I love this.
Not making the list. Money.
Agreed.
Legacy. Disrespect.
Legacy doesn't make the list.
Not top 3.
Okay, so I'm...
Wow.
Coming in at number 3 with the bronze. Everyone hates us / us against the world. So that's where I put Kelce.
Okay.
Number 2, stronger than being the villain. No one believes in us. Now, there's a little bit of a dip. Even the Chiefs liked that. Yeah. I think the Eagles have number 2. The number 1, that no one believes in them, they're underdogs.
I mean, I don't know. The best player on their team said good luck to whoever they're playing. I don't think they view themselves as underdogs. I don't
well,
think
they don't, but they are underdogs.
Game. Yes, okay.
Yeah, if you're going up against a dynasty trying to three-peat, I think you get that no one believes in it.
I took away your momentum. I apologize.
It's okay, because this number 1.
I got to hear it.
This launches wars.
Love?
Respect?
Revenge.
Oh.
Revenge is the number 1 Super Bowl motivator. It's like, well, do you really need revenge? Do we have any proof that they're out for revenge other than there's 20 guys on the squad right now who lost? Old Dusty reminded me. Remember Jalen Hurts' screensaver?
Oh, yeah.
This is a famous one. Jalen Hurts' lock screen is a photo of him walking off the field after the Super Bowl loss with the Chiefs confetti falling. So
Well, again, that was a screensaver in July of 23. I don't know if it still is.
I haven't checked his screensaver lately. But this is another level of like the Saquon picture. He's like, no, I'm going to remind my.
No, that's good.
And he's not out. He's very keep it in.
Yes, I agree. The only problem with that is the 5 teams who have had a chance for revenge previously in NFL history are 0 for 5. Whenever we've seen
revenge overrated,
I'm just telling you. I know we have to move on to Saquon, and I don't have it top of my head, but this is the 5th or 6th time the same 2 teams have met in the Super Bowl within a 5-year period,
Eli Manning.
And every time it's been sweeps. The Giants swept the Pats. The Chiefs swept the Niners. This Chiefs-Niners thing, that was in a 5-year period. Obviously, the Bills beat the Chiefs. Did San Francisco beat Denver twice? I forget who San Francisco beat.
Wow.
But the Cowboys obviously beat the Bills back-to-back years. Oh, I think it was the Steelers over the Cowboys.
I think they made it 2
and
Super Bowls.
I just know that there's been no splits.
And
it's been all sweeps.
And think about the revenge factor.
You don't like that, Wild?
Revenge is overrated? I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
When the Patriots met the Giants for the second,
been more revenge
that's
possible.
as much revenge as you can ever feel.
I know. We're still mad about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Eli Manning every time anything comes up, like, the helmet
I'm glad,
catch.
you know what? I'm glad you didn't make a graphic.
Yeah.
Because you're right.
The revenge wouldn't have been number 1.
Your list is
Let's not go over the top.
Just
revenge is a big thing.
Is it?
Yeah, watch
Nick
what happens.
just
Watch what happens when we do this again in the E-Block.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
All right.
Don't tell me what to do. You guys think you got one over on me there? You're wrong. Okay, Saquon bailed out on his pursuit of the single-season rushing record. You know, that strategy seems to have worked since he's lightened up the postseason. But is there more immortality on the line? Jeff Legwold writing about who is playing next Sunday, who has Hall of Fame potential. Here's what he wrote. It's possible Barkley, Derrick Henry, and Christian McCaffrey will come up in the same time frame for consideration, so it's potentially crowded. And Saquon lacks some of the numbers compiled by the other 2 running backs. A Super Bowl win would obviously help. So, Brew, do you agree that a Super Bowl win would make Barkley?
Well, Henry's a certain Hall of Famer.
Correct.
I think
Henry's
Barkley,
not in the
he's not in the
debatable player
discussion
anymore.
Barkley could be ahead of McCaffrey. I think it's close. And you guys know I love Saquon. And I hope he does become a Hall of Famer. But I do feel like he's got to do more.
A lot more.
Even if he wins this Super Bowl. The big closest comparison, Nick, and I'm sure you're thinking the same thing, is Terrell Davis. Because Terrell Davis only had 3 great years. And his prime or his greatness was cut short by injury, which can help you. You know, if you had Gale Sayers Gale Sayers didn't even rush for 5,000 yards in his career, but it was injuries cut it all short. So, and he was a 5-time first-team All-Pro. But anyway, here's the comparison between Terrell Davis and Saquon Barkley. These are the accolades for Terrell Davis:
That's
2 Super Bowl wins, an MVP in the Super Bowl, league MVP, 3 times All-Pro,
and I think 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, Brew.
Okay.
And so that is
in addition, so those 3 years were phenomenal. Also, those 3 years, each season he ran over 1,500 yards.
Yes.
Saquon has only had 1 season rushing for higher than 1,500 yards, and it's this one. And so I think that's a challenge for Saquon. What I will throw out is this, though, Nick. Could this be, if he wins the Super Bowl and runs for like 140 yards or whatever.
MVP.
Wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
MVP or not, but let's say, either or. Could this be the best season ever by a running back?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, here's, again, we brought up Terrell Davis, who I don't think anybody has like as a top 5 running back of all time. But here's the graphic of the most yards. Saquon only needs 30.
He's going to
he's gonna beat that. He'll have the most rushing yards ever.
Yeah.
But the Terrell Davis in '98 ran for 2,008 yards, was Super Bowl MVP, averaged 157 yards a game in the playoffs, and that won the Super Bowl. That, I don't know if Saquon can top that unless he goes for like 170.
I think it's exactly what you said. I think it would have to be over 150 yards, wins the Super Bowl, wins Super Bowl MVP. Because Terrell, So sometimes I see a topic.
And beating the Chiefs, you were going for a three-peat would help you.
Sometimes I see a topic, and I'm like, well, I could do all the stat prep, or I vaguely know most of it, and I am so certain Brew and I are going to come to the exact same conclusion. I'm going to let him and his office take care of all of it. And we landed in literally the exact same place. People will be like, Gale Sayers. Gale Sayers only had 5 great years. He was first-team All-Pro all 5 years. It's a different story.
Right.
Terrell Davis only had 3 great years. It was 3rd in MVP voting, 1st in MVP voting, 3rd in MVP voting, Offensive Player of the Year, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, back-to-back Super Bowl champion. And the playoffs before that last one that you're mentioning, he scored 8 touchdowns in the playoffs and had 500 rushing yards in the playoffs. So that is, right now, Saquon, we have to be careful not to be too prisoner of the moment-y in this regard. Right now, Saquon is far closer to Todd Gurley's career than he is a Hall of Famer.
Who was sneaky good?
No, not sneaky good. Sneaky great.
Sneaky great.
He was great and led a team to the Super Bowl. They obviously didn't win the Super Bowl. I understand that. But then, didn't have the longevity of it.
You said led. He did. He was the leader offensively.
Correct. And so, like Saquon, to me, is the leader offensively. And so the 2,000 yards doesn't get you in. Because Jamal Lewis, who has 10,000 career yards and a 2,000-yard season, not in. Chris Johnson, who has almost 10,000 career yards and a 2,000-yard season, did not get in. Like, he is right now, he being Saquon, is 65th in rushing yards in NFL history and 48th in touchdowns. So when it comes to borderline Hall of Fame cases, prefer high peak over extended good.
Yes.
So I do feel that way.
That goes for a lot of debates.
I know. I know. We just disagree about whose peak was higher on that. But the problem for Saquon is the high peak can't be 1 year.
Yes.
But if it's the best, like I like the idea. Suppose he doesn't make the Hall of Fame. And I'm Saquon in my recliner.
Right.
Saying, you know what, I didn't make the Hall of Fame, but I had the best year ever for a running back. But I
don't know how, unless he makes the Hall of Fame, I don't know how much memory that's going to have.
The best year ever?
Because it won't.
It's like kind of Roger Maris.
And I agree with Nick. It'll either that or Terrell Davis is the best year ever. I think I think O.J. Simpson in '73 when he rushed for 2,003 yards in 14 games, 143 yards a game. That's 10 more than any player has ever averaged in a game, and that's Jim Brown 133. And that was the best season ever, but they didn't even make the playoffs. Yep. So I have to factor in the postseason, and I would give it to Saquon. I will say this, Nick. I wonder if the standard for running backs will gradually it could get lower because think about it. The best running backs used to be 3-down backs. Yes. All of them used to be 3-down backs. Now, Saquon and Derrick Henry and all the rest this year that had great seasons are not 3-down backs.
They don't block.
Saquon's out sometimes, and Derrick Henry's out in important drives. James Cook last week was out. And so maybe the standards will get lower. So I would say if Saquon is phenomenal in this Super Bowl and they win, there is a possibility that just the narrative, the story, and he came from New York. Not did it in New York, but came from New York. That maybe that could.
So I think here's why I actually think
you get what I'm saying on that.
1,000%. And maybe if it was like the moment the Super Bowl's over, he retires and they waive the waiting period. They're like, vote right now.
If he got hurt oddly,
if he got hurt,
couldn't play,
But let's assume he doesn't suffer because Terrell Davis suffered a career-altering injury. Gale Sayers career-ending. Here's the thing. As much as I've loved this debate, it's kind of moot in this point, in this regard. No matter what happens in the Super Bowl, he should be a Hall of Famer because he's young enough
for sure.
that. He should have 3 with Philadelphia, great organization, good offensive line. he should be able to now put together not another 2,000-yard season necessarily, but enough quality years. 2-3 more great years he's in.
Agree.
But this by itself will not do it. And if he keeps playing and doesn't put together those 2 or 3 more great years, he doesn't deserve it.
Say, he wasn't in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.